Hello and welcome to Do the Right Thing, your weekly writing prompt podcast. I'm Matthias.
And I'm Jarvis.
Jarvis and I were created in a secret underground lab to replace the original Matthias and Jarvis because we're actually clones. However, we're not doing a good job of replacing the originals because we never write.
Exactly. So we are issuing a challenge. Each week you sit down for 30 minutes. Your goal is to write a complete short story using 3 of 4 randomly generated words.
Then we come on the podcast, and if we've written the story, we read it. We talk about what we learned of writing it. And then always, we talk about stories sent in by you listeners.
Exactamundo. We are simply here to help you do the right thing.
Doof Media Production. Jarvis and I hate scripts so much. We just don't do them.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that I'm not able to read, so
that does make it more difficult. So the reason we mentioned clones is because this week's theme is sequels. That's what we're talking about this week.
Yay!
For episode 75, that's a lot of episodes. We're 25 away from 100. I
know.
Woo.
What are we gonna do for episode 100? It has to be something that is absolutely left field, never been heard of, never been seen.
Maybe like a good story.
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
That's gotta happen at some point, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've been trying for 75 weeks, still hasn't happened. So
yeah. What were the words this week, Travis?
So the words for this week were feel, food, bubble, and contribution.
Yeah. So full disclosure. I started writing a story, and I have actually a first draft written, but it is not presentable at all, which is why I'm not reading one right now.
Okay.
I'm thinking of posting it sometime this week, but it's a sequel to what was the original words? I don't remember, but it's the story about this one young woman is pulling a wagon through a desert, and inside the wagon is a younger
child,
brother,
right?
who refuses to walk, and it makes it very difficult for her. And she stops at a town, and they only have water enough for one person, but she shares the water, even though the brother is not pulling his weight. And then they head to the next town, and they die on the way.
Okay. So how did you go about creating a sequel to that story? I'm guessing it isn't a direct continuation because they died.
Yeah. No. The words I used this week were feel, food, and contribution.
Okay. Not bubble.
Not bubble. There wasn't any bubbles this week. Instead, I wrote about a band of soldiers, and they're running away from an unknown sort of threat. And they have to leave one of them behind because he's injured, but he's not as injured as he's displaying, I guess.
Okay.
And yeah, they have to leave him behind, and they kind of force the issue. Part of it is that I haven't quite brought out all the emotions that are supposed to be in that scene. Mm-hmm. But that decision is pretty difficult, right?
Okay, I see. So it's more of a spiritual sequel. It's not in the same world or dealing with the same characters, but it's talking about a very similar subject.
Yeah, it's the same problem, but this time they had a different answer.
Okay, cool. I see. So in your process of writing that, right? How exactly did you bring over the spirit of the first one? Because I mean, really the whole point of creating a sequel is to take something that is a proven concept and then changing it to either be more in depth or within a different setting, or just carrying over that same spirit while also doing something different with it. So how did you kind of go about doing that for this other story?
Yeah, so there's that core. I mean, the main thing is that in the original there was that theme that I think about a lot sometimes, and it's been a while since I wrote that story, and things have changed, and I've thought of different things. And so I ended up kind of having a different perspective on it. And I basically, just wanted to update the written existence of that concept that I think about. So it was identifying that theme from before, knowing that I still that I'm thinking about it now. So it was like a good time for me to go back to that.
Yeah.
And yeah, exploring that the other decision that could have happened. Like, because you can picture the same thing in that story, leaving the brother behind instead of carrying on.
Okay, I see. And I mean, honestly, that sort of ending, I feel is like kind of the purpose of writing a sequel. Because as we see with a lot of sequels, especially if it's like movies or such, is done because of the want for more, in a sense, whether it is proven to garner more money or if the fans do want it. But there's a really big divide between a successful sequel and something that we would all consider a cash grab. And the line there is kind of thin, because I mean, many people didn't like Spider-Man Far From Home, but I would say that was a successful sequel because it was taking what we kind of learned about all of these characters in the first movie and then basically taking it one step further, trying to contradict everything that was set up in the first movie to garner a deeper understanding of this character. I feel that's what a sequel is supposed to do.
Yeah, so I think it's most questions, and especially when you have like a complex character, there's not just one thing to get over. There's multiple things and multiple steps to it and multiple directions for those things to go through. And I think the main part of any sequel is basically not just doing the same thing as last time again, but building off of. And I think a lot of times, not necessarily for short stories, I think it was a lot easier for us to go a different direction in ours because ours are a lot shorter, so it's not like there's a lot to copy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But if you were writing a novel, I think it's actually probably pretty easy to let yourself fall into the same channel that you carved last time, the same sort of structure, and kind of just doing it again.
Yeah, because I mean, like with a novel, you've spent so much time coming up with this one way to look at these characters, with this one story, with this one feel. So trying to recreate that magic while also doing something different is very difficult, and it's not a simple task whatsoever. I mean, as the saying goes, lightning never strikes in the same place twice.
Which is a weird saying, because in reality, like, it does. Like, the saying is still like a good saying because the sentiment. Sayings as a source for meaning is so strange to me. I know I've talked to you about this, but it's like, just because it sounds good, it does not necessarily mean it's true, but like, it still like is true at the same time. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like, another one that is true but is not true is you can't have your cake and eat it too, because you can. In fact, that's what every birthday party is.
That's true. That is the process of having it and then eating it.
Yeah, but the saying itself is trying to dig deeper than the actual words being used. I guess that's the purpose of a saying, right?
Yeah. The thing I just find most interesting is when there's two entirely contradictory sayings, but they both sound good, and so like the folksy wisdom in each of them like cancels each other out like PEMDAS, and you're like, wow, these are meaningless.
Yeah,
it's good stuff. Well, have you written any sequels, Travis?
Yes. So I've done a lot of sequels in stories like Weekend City, in like Psychedelic Wizard or whatever I do call that, and also in a lot of my personal writings. Honestly, I think when it comes to me writing a sequel, I will only do it if there is more that I have to say with that character or on that subject. Because really, I love the idea of something being one and done. Like, let's say Sin City, for instance. I love the first movie, no matter how cheesy some might think it is. Which, yeah, it is cheesy, but it's also kind of making fun of the typical noir tropes while also following the typical noir tropes.
The name of it is Sin
City. Exactly. So, I mean, I really, really like that movie. But I feel that the sequel didn't need to be made because there's nothing else that the sequel did that the first one didn't do better. So, I mean, within my own writing, right? I started writing a quote unquote sequel to Weekend City, where the main character basically goes outside of Weekend City to follow a case or something. And pretty much halfway through writing that, I realized that I didn't need to write this and that there was no point in writing it. Right? Because nothing within that quote unquote sequel really does anything different or even creates more understanding about this character or brings the audience something that is different and that they can be basically interested in. So I just stopped writing it. So.
Sure. Well, I think it's interesting when we talk about like the kinds of stories that are super recurring by their nature, right? If you're writing, you know, the Sherlock, right? The structure is often going to be the same of like there is a mystery, right, to solve. However, the way that that's presented changes a lot of the time. Like it's not always like, oh, there was a murder scene. Let's like look for clues at the murder scene. And then that leads us to one place, and then see the perpetrator there on the way. It's not all Law and Order, right?
Yeah.
There's actual variation. Sherlock is there's supposed to be even though it's the same kind of feeling and like overall story structure, not just like the specifics change, but like the structure of the specifics change, and the questions that the characters are facing change.
Yeah.
I know I'm kind of being kind of vague right now with like you're not actually listing specifics, but
well, yeah, and I mean I've read plenty of those stories, and I know exactly what you mean. I mean, in a duke will come with a letter and saying, "Hey, can you spy on my wife?" And then Sherlock's like, "Sure." And then of course, you know, there's some sort of crime or murder, but then they are instead of just like talking about what is right and a wrong, they are talking about the strength of women, you know, and then like that's thrown in there. But then in a different one, that
is this a
feels
specific example, or
yeah,
are you
is.
or oh okay good? I was like, this is very specific.
I wish I could tell you what the name of it was.
It's Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's favorite Sherlock story, Sherlock and the Time That He Spied on the Duke's Wife.
That was it. That was the name of it.
Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, so like I think the entire Sherlock series is a really good example of what a sequel is, because even though it is the exact same format for the most part, the contents of it vary tremendously from piece to piece, which keeps you reading all of them, because within each one you're getting something different. You're like not just like eating oatmeal every day. Some days you have bacon, other days you have eggs, and hey, Tuesday you only have orange juice left, you know? But it is that variety that will maintain your reader base throughout whatever sequel you do choose to write.
Okay, so you're saying that just make sure that your audience gets a good balanced breakfast. All the nutrients. Did you know that balanced breakfast is a invention created by Big Cereal? I'm not even kidding.
Yes, it is.
It's terrible.
Yeah, which is crazy. A lot of health people say that you shouldn't even... you don't really need breakfast, right?
Yeah, just eat when you're hungry. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, that is what you're supposed to do. That is.
I ate cereal this morning, and I honestly wanted to vomit. I was like,
yeah, I mean,
I
like
just
most,
don't want any more. I'm good.
Most cereals just don't really taste that good. You know, I mean, like either you have bland wheat or super sugar and nothing in the middle. Like,
I mean, at that point, like, why don't you just like get a cup of flour? Right, and just start
put some water in it, mix it, and then
drink it, and then wash it down with just like straight sugar. You know, like
and
what's the difference?
It's the exact same thing. Nothing.
Sprinkle some cinnamon in there, and there you go.
Which is why, just all you need in the morning is a piece of toast, water. That's it.
I just need a sugar cube, like a horse,
like a horse.
Maybe an apple,
maybe some carrots. Yeah. Celery.
Carrots don't have enough calories. I'm really upset about it, actually, but that's a whole different thing. Do you know a 7-inch carrot is only 30 calories?
What? Really?
It's insane. I hate it.
That's crazy.
It's like, why am I even eating this?
I mean, I I guess if you're like health conscious and trying to like
Hey,
burn
you know what else is
calories.
insane? I know we're really going off at a tangent, but we got to fill up this time anyway. Okay,
Yes.
no.
Are you
But
about to talk about celery?
I'm going to talk about radishes.
Okay.
Radishes are my dad eats radishes. So we have a bag of radishes and I was making a soup and I was like, I'm going to throw stuff in here. I need to have 1,500 calories a day or else I'll die. So, let's actually put some stuff in here. And I look at the radishes. I'm like, hey, how many radishes we got to add to like actually up this meal? You know how many radishes? Okay, the serving size for the bag of radishes
Yeah.
was 7 radishes. Okay, 7
Wow.
whole radishes. Can you guess how many calories 7 whole radishes are?
70.
10.
10 for 7
Just 10
radishes?
for 7. And I look at the nutritional facts and nothing is above 4% for 7. This is for the entire 7. And so I just I know there's
Wow.
vitamins and stuff in there, but like
Yeah.
not even fiber. Like is why would you take the time to chew this? It doesn't even taste good.
It doesn't. Wow.
It's so then you got to swallow it and use peristalsis to make it go down into your stomach. And like there's resources being expended to burn it there too. It's just like
Wow.
eating is so tiring.
It is.
I'm very over it.
But also,
It's very passé.
For y'all that are trying to lose any weight, eat celery. Celery has negative calories.
Does it really?
Yeah, because basically the amount of calories that you use to actually eat it oversees how many calories celery actually has.
Wow.
So
That's terrible.
Yeah, so I think it's like -1 calorie for like a stalk of celery, which is insane.
Have you seen that Portlandia bit?
Yes.
That skit with big celery? It's good. It's a good one.
Yeah, can we just have a like Portlandia podcast when we just go through all of the
Honestly,
episodes?
we
Because
could
I really
do that.
I really need to
I-
like rewatch that show.
I stopped after the 5th season, although I've heard bad things about Fred Armisen, so that's a downer.
What did he do?
I think he like texted someone that was like, or not texted someone that was like way younger than him. Like I don't know if she was a minor, but like not a good.
Come on, Fred.
Like it was a fan too,
Oh,
anyway,
okay,
yeah, it's gross. Anyway, writing sequels.
Well, okay, Matthias, before we move on, would you want to name one of your favorite sequels?
I'm gonna actually do some good marketing right here, and say Madoka Magica Rebellion, which we are going to talk about this month on the bonus content. $10 patrons, it's for you. Madoka Magica Rebellion. It's a ludicrous movie.
Oh, it's absolutely bonkers. But at the same time, it is exactly what I wanted from Madoka Magica, if that makes sense.
Yes, it's all yeah. I don't quite know exactly what my non-joke answer would be. I mean, there's plenty of great sequels that I can think of, but I don't know about a favorite.
Yeah, like if you're just listing some, most people would say that Terminator 2 was the quintessential
if we're talking movies, it gets a lot easier because that's like with movie sequels, you either actually get a hit or it's terrible.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of the Back to the Future sequels. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Okay.
So if anyone wants to make me watch that you could.
How much did you like the first movie?
I liked it. It's good. It gave me an existential crisis when I first watched it. Like I was like in a stupor for like 3 days.
Oh wow!
But
just thinking about time and.
But yeah, I got stuck in a grandfather paradox loop and I couldn't think of anything else.
Oh,
It was actually pretty bad. But I'm good now. Also, the Goonies did that, which is really weird because there's no time travel in that one. So.
Well, I mean, Goonies is a really hard commentary.
Yeah, I think
on like what it means to be young and how it's kind of this like false hope or this false.
The line that did mess me up was it's our time down here, because I took it very literally.
Oh no!
And I thought I thought like they're stuck in a well at that point, and I thought like above the well, it's like the future, and at the bottom of the well, it's the past, and that's their time. And there's some causality. I had a very overactive imagination. I don't know. It was weird. At some point we should ask, hey, are y'all enjoying this over commentary? If y'all want us to shut up and focus on the writing stuff, add us. You can send us a tweet, an email. You can comment in the discussion threads, which I've started posting more regularly than before, which was not saying much, or whatever.
You can just yell it really loud, and hopefully we'll hear it.
Because the thing I want to balance out is that Jarvis and I, while we do study writing and we do practice it a bit, right? We are not like actual like real experts.
We know a bit,
but
we
it's
are
not.
Podcasting experts. We know enough to fill 1 hour, right? And then we have to recharge every week.
The thing that I can think this podcast is great for is that it has a little community around it and it's helping y'all write. That's our most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're really happy that that's happening. And that so many of y'all have joined us. And there was like 3 new this week. It was fantastic.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, I love that. And then there's the other like purpose of the podcast, which is to get people better at writing, which I think practice is makes perfect, and critiquing stuff is really important. But then it's like, I'm not an actual professor, so it's kind of like, I don't have a lesson plan here, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, it is a question to like, what are we at liberty to really speak on? Because, we don't want to speak too overtly and speak in fucking absolutes because we don't know.
Yeah, like, I think we have directions correct, right?
Yeah.
And I think almost everything we say can be argued to be correct in some sense, but it might not be the most helpful thing to say sometimes. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would love to hear y'all's opinions, and if you guys want us to just hang out more rather than more lesson planny, or do the lesson plan theme stuff but keep it super casual rather than like trying to be teaching stuff. I know this is a really off the cuff. Like the conversation just went this direction rather than like me actually being like, on this segment, we're going to go meta and ask them how they want us to change the podcast. But yes, I would love to hear y'all's opinions and change the format and our focus accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so please hit up those discussion threads. That is the place that you can say anything. You can say if we sounded sick this week, if you liked the stories this week, if you wish that it was even longer. That is where you would post those sort of things, because we do read them.
Also, if you want to send a secret message to me and not Jarvis, the way to do that would be to send me an email at matthias@doofmedia.com, because I'm a professional and I've got an email with our company domain on it.
Well,
so
if you want to send me a personal message that Matthias cannot read, you can do that by
and you just like say your Gmail,
going
like
to my Twitter.
That's true. You could do that.
Yeah.
Do you have DMs open?
Always. Mega
good.
Open. Just
you could just ask for the professional.
I
Goof Media
could,
email.
but busy school, work hard, satire.
All right. I think that's all we have to say about sequels today. I think we ran out about 15 minutes ago.
But it is prime time to talk about our listener submitted stories.
Okay, this part I do feel confident that I think I am good at critique. I will say that. I think I will allow myself to think that I am somewhat qualified to look at a story and identify things that can be changed or that are great in it. And you too.
Yeah, me too. This week's words are by Ghost Pac-Man 4, Spiel Carter, Sithril, Sarah Penguin, Yan Yi Din, and Mabin 15. And, of course, as we say every single last week, these stories are going to be spoiled by us. So if you have not gone and read them, you should pause right now, go read them, and then come back so that we can talk about them.
Some of you more acute members may have noticed that was actually 6 usernames and not 5. And that's because there's 3 whole new people, and we didn't notice that until after we rolled the first 5, and we didn't want to just like re-roll the whole thing and try to. We just want to make sure that every new person like gets their story on their first time, because I think that's really encouraging. Yeah. So shout out to y'all 3. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. All right. So first up this week is by Sithril with Dead to the Step.
So this story, Dead to the Step, is a prequel actually to another story that Cithara wrote, which is What's Your Name? And that story has one of the main characters in this one, Yasodhara, having run away from her homeland and sort of recovering. And so this is right before she has to leave. We have a different character that's our main character, Essie, who we start off and she's taking care of a horse who is like suspicious of everything. We kind of get that as foreshadowing, like clearly there's something wrong going on here. We get some exposition and backstory that Yasodhara, who's like Essie's like her handmaiden or her bow maiden, is basically, as I understood, it's sort of like a squire sort of thing, right? And Yasodhara, who is a woman, she was one of the like lower commanders in this fight against some other people, but all the other generals at the time died, and she assumed control and returned victorious. But there was a betrayal because the Khan's son had taken charge while she was gone and saw her as a threat to power and stripped her of her titles and stuff. And so we see that this is not a good position for our characters to be in, and Essie's like worried for her, and we really see that like she really cares about her, and we're also thinking like, are they just friends, and do they know that they're just friends, anyway, so we have a series of scenes. Actually, this is a longer story, and Cithara talks about how they went over time a little bit, but it's forgivable.
Yeah.
So Essie gives Yasodhara a coat to ride on, and she's going to go on a ride around. And then while Essie is in town, she overhears that some men are actually looking for her and kind of surmising that this is like when they're going to try to kill her, right? She is able to make it back in time and warn Yasodhara and tell her to run, and she runs away. And at this point, we cut a bit further, and Essie is super sad that she hasn't seen Yas in a very long time, and she's pretty sure that she's dead, that she didn't actually get away, and it's very, very sad that she feels really alone now.
Yeah, I really, really like this one. I mean, personally, I am a sucker for a prequel. I am the kind of person that wants to know as much as possible, especially about these main characters. So I think that Cithara did a really good job at kind of starting from square one and really focusing a lot on this relationship that, like, throughout the whole thing, we can tell that there is this really deep-rooted care between both of these characters. But at the same time, I really like how this story really focused a lot on its world building, how it brought us back in to this world and really focused a lot on not only what is going on with these main characters, but also what the world around them is really going through, and showing how that is affecting these main characters. So, I mean, really, this is a really great prequel sequel, and I think by reading this makes you want to go back and reread the first entry even more. So, really great job.
Yeah, so I think there was at times where the exposition went on for either slightly too long, or it came off as mostly being exposition rather than like a character driven.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because like I do see that Essie would be thinking about a lot of these things because she's worried for Yas, right? But a lot of it is like the sort of, so you remember about whatever, and then sort of talking about things that she would already have like thought about and wouldn't be rethinking over. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that makes sense, but I mean, I could definitely understand that this is like a lot of detail that you want to get out conveyed to the reader. I think some of it could have been like shown rather than told, like the fact that people are looking for Yas. I think that's enough to like inform me a lot about who the Khan is and the son of the Khan, and like how dastardly he is and stuff like that. One thing I want to praise is that there's times here where like the prose really feels like appropriate to the time that I really, really like. There's just a general feeling of like this is an older story, and these are the narration is telling it from that setting, which is sometimes contradicted with some of the characters sometimes sounding a little bit more modern. but at other times going the other direction. I mean, there's a lot of research done here with like what the appropriate words are for all the different kinds of ways that these people live, because they're nomad raiders, so that they live in like yurts, and there's a bunch of other words that just feel really, really appropriate. So yeah, this is there's a lot to talk about here.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, really, by reading this like kind of makes me question what is the point, right, of a prequel, right? Because of course the events of it are happening before the main action. So is it supposed to tell a completely different story leading up to that moment, or is it just supposed to provide the reader with more context on how to read the first story? You know, so there are a lot of questions.
That's interesting.
That come up. Yeah,
One thing I liked about this is that there's a bit of dramatic irony with the ending. Is that we see how sad Essie is, but we also know that Yas is actually alive out there, and I think that deepened and made the sadness more complex.
Yeah, definitely. But thank you very much for submitting your story, Sithrill. And up next is by Ghost Pac-Man 4 with Ideal.
So in the original story here, which is called Idol, which is a nice little, I like the sort of reflection there, where we have it's a very interesting story. We talked about it the last time. This is the one where there was a hero who's actually basically a corpse at this point on top of a like tower, being taken care of by a priestess, but like they are a corpse. And the purpose is for whenever there's like these giant snow monsters that attack, like city sides, like kaiju basically, they appear as a giant figure of like fire and light, and they fight off the monster. But the hero is not actually, this is actually a tortured existence for them, and they don't actually have any choice on whether they fight the monster or not. And we can get that, like, in the first one, there's the implication that the hero has started writing text on the bodies to sort of like communicate the suffering that he's in, which is a great twist. And this story ends up changing that implication to go another direction. So in this one, we focus a lot more on the high priestess taking care of him, and she's like way overly happy to be a priestess. I'm sure she's just not aware of his suffering. And she ends up like, clothing him and feeding him, but everything that she does actually just reminds him of the pain that he's in. And he doesn't actually get any help from it, which is this terrible irony. We absolutely understand his like anger at her, but also at the same time, we see that she's like really trying. And there's a chance that she knows and she just puts on the air anyway because she's like a fool. But on the other side, she could like actually be trying to be kind. But in this one, there's a difference. So we really see that he's a corpse that has been sort of tortured for a very long time. So he's already pretty close to death, and he wants to finally be able to die, right? And in this final one, he fights off this the snow monster, but during it, he gets stabbed with this spear, and it's revealed that the spear is actually his one weakness that he actually communicated to the snow monsters in order to tell them how to kill him, because he wants them to finally end his existence, because he didn't have any choice whether or not to fight them. And we get that that's a big twist from the last time, where we thought that he was communicating to the people of the city, right? The people he's protecting. But no, he was communicating to the enemies. In the last moments, the giant snow monster basically hugs him as the fires finally die out.
So yeah, I really love this story. I mean, I like how much time we spend in this main character's head. And I mean, it's a very weird place where this story is sitting, right? There's this courts person who's also all powerful, and just seeing how this power is really draining him over time. I think it was a really great twist ending to where this all powerful corpse basically ended up dying by his own hand, in a sense. So yeah, I just really think that the action within this is very well placed. I think it's only adding on top of a lot of the world building that we saw in the previous version. But like, as you said, it is kind of twisting it. used very well to get us to this totally different ending that we weren't really expecting. Or at least it is providing us with another layer to really look at this main character, which I really think is a shining example of what a good sequel can really do. So overall, I really like the story.
Yeah, I think so too. That this is a really good. This does what the sequel is supposed to do, kind of put into a different perspective the original meaning. I think actually there's a really. I really like the theme that ends up coming out here, which is sort of like comparing the different kinds of help that someone gets, and like one was from someone actually like listening, and the other one is just like assuming that they know how to help. And I really like that.
Yeah, so really great job, Ghost Pac-Man 4. All right, so next up is by Sarah Penguin with Click Click Boom.
All right, so this is a sequel to a story they wrote about 24 episodes ago. By about, I mean it's exactly that one. Yeah. It's this really the original was a really interesting story with a scientist being the last one alive. And everyone else everyone else in the crew has been infected and is about to die. And basically, they are just choosing whether or not to end themselves as well, and it's really tragic. And in this, we cut to way later with a squad of soldiers landing at the facility to take the research and then blow it up to contain the infection, right? And so they land, and we get some stuff with the characters, and there's some cool like showing world building where we just get the implications of what this sort of universe looks like and what our people's focus is. There's a lot of references to real life, science and things that already exist, as in like they talk about zombies, but they're only talking about like the funguses that take control of insects, right? And there's another talk about how adrenaline makes you so much stronger, that sort of thing. And it's paired with this, really outlandish infection that like turns you into a monster, right? Yeah. So I like that. So the squad lands, and we get a lot more. There's some moments of character building, and we sort of get the whole vibe. Like they're all, they're squaddies, right? And there's a slow buildup of tension as we encounter all the bodies, and they are partially eaten, and the virtual intelligence that runs the facility is like not actually being helpful at all and almost being misleading. There's blood everywhere until finally Dr. Mendez falls out of nowhere and kills like two of them right away, infecting another one. And we see that everything has gone to shit. And our viewpoint character is actually dying. We don't actually follow the rest of the fight. And so most of it happens off screen, where we get the implication that like the explosives are planted, but this zombie of Dr. Mendez is actually as intelligent as a doctor, except super strong and has the intent to kill them and eat them. So only one is left and heading toward the exit, but we almost get the implication that like the doctor's just like too smart and something is going to go wrong for that too.
Yeah. So yeah, I really think this is a fantastic sequel. And I mean, like, even though the entire zombies genre is like over saturated with every single last idea you can possibly think of, I think that this story does really good at focusing a lot on its characters and really trying to establish this like, as you said, very squatty dynamic that they do have. And I think that is really what carries us through this story. On top of like really great description of this place. And also I, like, as you said, really like how they are bringing a lot of these ideas of like how this zombie operates to real life things that we are very familiar with. And I think that really kind of helps us when it comes to suspending our disbelief going into the story. And I think the like very last bit is fantastic. I love how crazy and how horrible it just instantly goes. And I think at the end, I have a very strong feeling that they didn't make it out, especially since there's this smart, strong zombie chasing them. So yeah, overall, I think this is a really great entry. I think it perfectly works off of what you set up in the last bit, and I really do like the choice to do a time jump, because it kind of provides it provides what was being set up in the beginning with a brand new perspective, and I really appreciated that.
I like how it's really different. It's using one character but using them in an entirely different way. The doctor, rather than being this poignant person that's contemplating whether or not to do this big decision, to this crazed zombie. It makes me wonder what happened the last time, because I think there's sort of an implication, but I'm not entirely sure that she had 2 bullets, I think. And that she killed the one other zombie that was there, but chained up rather than herself, I think is the implication. But that zombie wasn't actually fully dead either. I was not entirely sure. It's kind of I sort of wanted to see the aftermath of that decision as set,
I see.
But not that actually is matters. But yeah, I really like how this is a entirely different feeling from the first one, and yet has some echoes of it. I really like the touches of the culture that talks about the void as a afterlife. I think that's really well done.
Yeah. So perfect sequel, and thank you very much for submitting this week's Sarah Penguin. And up next is Yanni Din with The Right Words.
So this is a fun meta story. We have a character, Marvin, who starts off having a very weird thought.
2 kids
wondering.
swimming.
The first thought is that adding a food service to a bubble tea cafe would contribute to better sales, and yet he doesn't have a cafe or any plans to have a bubble tea cafe. And it's just so that first paragraph is sort of a remark on the extremely random specific thoughts that we have. And then it goes a bit meta, where we have this character musing on how they are an author and that they have these random thoughts, and how it's maybe it's just the creativity. The job is to be creative, but this is not actually super, even though it's not super useful, it's still worth writing down, and maybe it'll be a useful thought at some point. It's all about thinking outside your real life bubble, even if that means thinking about random things that don't have anything to do with your life or with the things that you normally think about. And then it ends with Marvin deciding that all of these thoughts that he's written down should be posted somewhere online, and he can't figure out why.
Interesting.
Which is a fun little meta twist. I liked it.
Yeah. So I think this is a really great story to start off with when it comes to doing the right thing. I like how it is very meta, and I also relate very well to this character of Marvin, of having these kind of outlandish thoughts that are coming from absolutely nowhere, but they're also steeped in this sort of creative edge. So yeah, I think that honestly this is a really great stream of consciousness when it comes to actually wanting to write. And I found this piece, however short it is, very relatable in that way. So yeah, really great job. Well, all right. Up next is by Spiel Carter with Her Contribution.
So this is a story that takes place in this rural village where there's a fairy fete going on, which is as we understand it's some kind of festival. And so we start off with this character Ingrid, who has baked a bunch of muffins and worked really hard for it, and she's very excited to contribute to the festival and raise money for charities. It's what's going on there. And so she sets up her little stand, and it's very adorable. And then she walks off. And then we have this other character, Ed, who jumps in, who is only focused on getting money for a contest that is happening so that he can impress the girls. Just the concept of the girls. No one in specific at all. And he's kind of he just seems kind of a dick. He's picking up the coins that have fallen to the ground at some place, knowing that they probably will go to someone else, but it's not it doesn't need to go to them. And then in the process, he stumbles a bunch of times and kind of knocks over the entire tent. And in the panic, he decides just to get out of there. He picks up the coins, he picks up a muffin, and leaves. And then from a distance, he sees Ingrid come back, see the terrible thing that's happened, and start sobbing because all her muffins on the ground. She wasn't able to help out. And he comes back because it's a girl. He's got to impress the girl by apologizing. And he says he's really sorry and gives the money. And we are like, oh, this might be like a cute little, they might start liking each other. But no, she takes it. She's like, wow, like that helps. But like still, what a dick, basically. Which is, it's great. I really like it.
Yeah. I really like this sort of situation that is being set up here, and how there are two characters that are predominantly talked about that could not be more different. And I think it fits very well with this sort of light world building that is being set up to kind of give us this situation. And I think overall I really like how we are in this character of Ed's head, and how his goals are so clear and and so honest to really who he is or who he seems to be. And I really like how we followed along that line throughout the story.
Yeah, I think it's really well shown that he's just like a self-serving, cowardly little rat boy.
Yeah, I mean, what he is picking up coins off of the ground that are
to get €8
that are meant
or £8,
for
I think.
charity. At the same time, I do like how the story itself doesn't comment on that. It really lets us come to that conclusion solely through his action, which I really do like. And I think the ending is very fun. It's hilarious how this character of Ed thinks that is enough. That even though he knocked down the whole thing, he gave her one coin, even though we all know that he has a lot more coins. So I just think this.
No, he gives all the coins, but it's still like barely anything, and none of it's like his, right? It's all stuff he just picked
coins,
up.
So he's giving her stolen property, but I just really like the world building being done here, and I think it really sets up this fairly comical situation very well. So really great job.
Yeah. So one little critique is that the transition from Ingrid to Ed's perspective is a little abrupt, and there was a moment where I was confused. I think either adding in some sort of like a signaling paragraph break, right? You could put an asterisk, that kind of thing, or there's this tone set up in the very beginning that this is sort of storytelling, right? The beginning is, once a year, the tiny village of Borage Green became one of the most exciting places to be in the entire country. So it's very like there's someone telling you the story. I think start off the sentence where Ed comes in, which is Ed Walters was having one of his less than lucky days. If you don't have the asterisk paragraph break, have something like over in another place, or on the other side of the village, or some other signal to us that we are leaving the area of the story where Ingrid is, and now we're going to be talking about Ed. I think would be a really good way to transition that.
Yeah, definitely. But either way, thank you very much, Spiel Carter. And up next is Meben 15 with Voluntary Acquisition.
So this is an interesting sort of comedic story. We have the Intergalactic Consortium Voluntary Acquisitions Officer Bruhaad, or something like that. I'm not entirely sure on the pronunciation. Who is a sort of bird person, but in a suit. Has just entered a space kraken to meet with the residents of the space kraken and ask them if they want to donate anything to the Intergalactic Consortium Voluntary Acquisitions. I messed up the order of the words there, but so we're not entirely sure what this organization is. We understand that they take donations and they prefer money or energy, which is like it's funny to me because it's like, they go there and we're like, oh, they're gonna get some like whatever the local like sci-fi resource thing is, right? It's very bartery. He's like, no, just like if you can give me a standard currency, that would be wonderful. So Bruhad goes in there. It's a really gross place. We're inside a kraken's stomach, and meets the locals, who is a appropriately strange alien, and they have a little conversation. And there's some messing around with the translator. It feels off, but this thing is extremely excited to donate to the commission or consortium, and we're not entirely sure why. but it hands over a bunch of polyfibrous plasma bubbles, which are useful, delicious, and a source of energy or something. And so our character picks them up and takes them back. And so this is just a nice little trip through this little story. My brain went down a path, and I'm not entirely sure if this is actually like in the text at all. But these are these little green bubble things. I was like, are these eggs? Are these the insect eggs? Is this the aliens' eggs, and they're gonna like actually not be a good thing to have at all, and that's why it's so excited to hand them over? But I wasn't sure. I think that might just be an extra twist thing that's not actually in there. But I think it was fun just to think about.
Yeah. I think this story is very comical and even uncanny. I do like how we start off with this sort of very absurd place, and it's really a testament to this world building being done. I mean, like within the very first line, we are met with this weird person with a very odd name and that they are inside of a space kraken. So you're like, all right, cool, we are in this. And then as the story continues, we just get more and more of this sort of like subtle comedic tone that is being set up along with the like world building. And then when he meets this little alien creature, I really like the moments where they are messing with the sort of translator. It leaves off in this place to where we're like, oh, okay, that was fun.
Yeah, it's a cute little journey. I liked it, and yeah, I think the setting description is the most enjoyable part.
Definitely. Well, all right, those are all of our stories for this week. We wish we could talk about all of them, but hey, it's already midnight. So, instead of talking about more, let's just go ahead and say thank you to everyone who did submit. So, thank you very much to Sithrill.
Thank you, Ace of Sword.
Thank you, Ghost Pac-Man 4.
Thank you, Sarah Penguin.
Thank you, Yanni Den.
Thank you, Spielcarter.
Thank you, Calinero 985.
Thank you, Captain Rhino.
Thank you, Jarby Jazz.
Thank you, Nick to you.
Thank you, Meben15.
And thank you, Vice Versailles. I felt kind of bad. There's so many people who this is either their first time writing or they haven't written in a while coming back. And I wish that I could basically celebrate that for everyone and read all the stories. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, definitely.
It's great to see more people and especially the comments being exchanged.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic. I think this week was definitely one of the most comments that we've seen in quite some time. So really great job. And also, speaking of comments, let's just go ahead and say thank you to everyone who posted one or more comments. Basically, commenting on someone else's story not only helps you understand what you can do within your own writing better, but at the same time, you're giving someone that crucial feedback that we're all really looking for when it comes to writing.
And the other incredible resource that all writers need, which is attention.
Mm-hmm. That's what we want. That's why we do it.
But really, like, knowing that someone has read your story and, like, paid enough attention to just say something about it is really, really validating. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, thanks so much for those that left comments. Do we have a list?
Yes, we do. So, thank you very much to Sithrill, Sarah Penguin, Yanni Den, Jarby Jazz, Captain Rhino, and Vice Versailles. Thank you so much for leaving comments this week.
Yeah, y'all did fantastic. And I know some of you left like a lot of comments, and I really, really appreciate that. Yeah, it helps keep this alive. And if someone left a comment on your story, consider leaving a comment on theirs. And of course, it doesn't have to be super deep. Just, react to their story. And if the author has left in a comment on their own story, talking about what they feel after writing it, use that as a jumping off point.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to be like all of our wonderful writers and submit a story to Do the Right Thing, you can do that by going to /r/Do the Right Thing. All you have to do is sit down for 30 minutes and write a complete short story using 3 or 4 of the words from that week.
If you want to find out the words a little bit earlier than normal, not having to wait for the episode to be posted, the place to do that would be either to check the subreddit or just follow us on Twitter, and then you'll see the announcement as soon as it goes up. The words are supposed to come out on Saturdays. That's not always the case, but it's supposed to be. But yeah, that would be the place to do that. If you have anything you want to let us know, you can, of course, leave a comment in the discussion threads for the episodes, or send us an email at rightthingcast@gmail.com. Mm-hmm. And our Twitter is at Right Thing Cast.
And also, if you want to support us and everything else going on in Doof Media, you can do that by donating to the Doof Media Patreon. All you have to do is donate $1 or more per month, and you'll be supporting us and all of the other wonderful podcasts on our network. And if you want to donate a little bit more, let's say $10 per month, you get access to the specialty bonus episode of me and Matthias talking about Madoka Magica. And also, in this upcoming week, you will hopefully get another bonus episode of us talking about the Madoka Magica movie.
It's probably not gonna be this week,
Oh, well,
but it'll be probably the week
month,
after, honestly. Yeah. yeah. This month, for sure. Soon-ish,
Yeah.
I think.
You still have to schedule one to watch that.
Also, just for the record, a Decomposing Worm is getting pretty close to ending. We only have 2 more episodes left. I mean, we've had 2 more episodes left for like a month, and it extended for a bit, but Clarence has finished Worm. And it's a big deal. He finished it. It's crazy. Woo! You guys can go ahead and add him in the Decomposing Worm channel. I mean, only do that for the short while. Don't, if you're listening to this like a month in the future, don't add him. But right now, I mean, he'll look eventually if you don't add him. Anyway, yeah, he finished Worm, and it's fantastic. And so we're gonna talk about the last the last 2 arcs and then Worm as a whole in the next overview episode, which is also coming out this week and not after another 2-week break. So it's very exciting. It's nearly over, y'all.
Wow, how's it feel doing a whole overview of Worm for the second time on this podcasting network?
How does it feel finishing a podcast?
Yeah,
it's a whole different feeling. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, so much free time.
It's just weird. Yeah. Suddenly, not that it's a burden, but it's a lot of work per week.
Yeah,
we'll be gone, and I don't know how to entirely feel about that. Maybe a little sad.
Aww. Well, hey, maybe.
But covering Worm was really cool. I get to do that again.
And hey, maybe you will find another passion project to do another podcast over.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Who knows?
Yeah. So, Matthias, what's going on in Doof right now?
So I'm going to be talking about the Doofcast for just a second here. So last week, as I mentioned, that very special episode on Legend of Korra Season 2 came out. And then this week, they're covering The Mist. And then guess what is the week after, Jarvis?
What?
Guess what? The 100th episode of the Doofcast is in 2 weeks on the 25th. Which is huge. I think this is counting from the rebrand from the Daily Planet. So technically, that kind of show has actually been around for a very, very long time, longer than 100 episodes. But this Doofcast with Elliot and Ruben as part of the team, and us eventually. But that being Doof has been around for 100 episodes, so I'm really excited for that milestone. That's huge.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I also want to add that there has been voting for the Deconstructing Director Series that Scott and Matt do, and I think, and this is not confirmed, I don't think the vote is closed, but the current the polls show that Guillermo del Toro is in the lead right now, which will be very, very exciting. So they're going to cover every single one of Guillermo del Toro's major films. And talk about how he's developed as a director over time, and I'm super excited because I really like his stuff.
Yeah, no, that is fantastic. I can't wait till I get to the Shape of Water and just have a field day with that. But yeah,
and then also Hellboy, because that's the one that I don't get those movies. Actually, I'm gonna be honest, I don't get it.
What?
But the other ones are great. Yep.
Yo, I gotta talk to you later about that.
Okay, fine. So if you like what we do here at Doof Media, you can consider donating $1 a month or whatever else you can afford. You get all these great perks, like being able to talk to us on the Discord, being able to feel like a contributing member of the community, which I got to tell you, it feels kind of good. I think I didn't experience it in that way, but so from what I've heard, it's cool. And there's all these wonderful perks, like voting in all these voting basically to choose different things in the community and the directions that we go in, and I think that's very exciting.
Yeah, nice. Well, all right. I guess it's time to wrap up this show by announcing next week's words, which are what, Matthias?
The words for next week.
Yeah.
Actually, aren't you're supposed to do it? You always do it. You always say the words for next week.
I do, but I was trying to switch you up. But
Okay,
I guess since I am the king of do the right thing, and the king's got to deal with the king's got to do, I'll go ahead and say that. Don't you worry. So,
did you want a drum roll?
Yes, please give me a drum roll. All right, hit it. Yeah, I dig it. So, next week's words are transform, advisor, scan, and bend. And on top of that, our theme for next week is going to be sci-fi. Anything that is science fiction, that can be a rousing space battle, all the way to a godlike machine.
Yeah, the emphasis that I want to go in this direction is not necessarily just like a science fiction-y setting, like Star Wars, right? Star Wars is more of the
fantasy,
science fantasy, where it's more based around the sort of like myths. It's more of a traditional like character based, like that is the focus of the story, right? Now on the other hand, so the more like literary science fiction or whatever, you don't actually have to follow any of my rules. If you want to write a science fiction story that's literally just like
Star Trek.
the like Captain Kirk aspect of Star Trek, not the like New Worlds aspect of Star Trek. That's totally valid. Or if you don't even want to write sci-fi at all, of course. But the direction that I'm thinking of is more of like considering problems and questions that you are facing right now, which can range from like practical problems of like the sort of disconnection that we have right now with from other people, where we I don't talk to my neighbors, that kind of thing. That's a problem, and you can extend that forward into the future to where like no one talks to anyone, and you sort of imagine a scenario like that. Or you can go to more existential stuff of like the meaning of life in a world where like the question of like knowing whether you exist or not, viewed through the lens of robots, right? That's always the take you can go. So there's a lot of options here. I think basically looking at a question you already have and then trying to apply a sort of exaggerated science fiction-y or technological scenario that maybe feels possible, I think is a really good way to do that. So we have transform, which is, did we have transform already?
I think we
okay,
did.
we gotta look at the word generator, because it's doing repeats.
Which is I don't
weird.
really know how to fix that, because it is a random word generator.
And and it's really hard to like check every word if it's done before.
Yeah, especially since we're on episode 76.
Yeah. So, but right, transform from one state to another. Then there is advisor, which is a person that advises someone else. And then to scan, which is either like a noun, like a scan, right? That all the information back from scanning the verb, which is basically to look over things and either take in information or I think actually that's probably the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then bend, which is a verb for one thing to go from a straight line to a curved line, or you can get the bends if you are a diver going from a very high pressure place to low pressure too rapidly, which is, I think, your organs rupture, which is fun. You will die. There's a bend in the river, so there's plenty of ways to apply these.
Yeah, definitely. Well, all right, Matthias, what story are you going to write next week?
Right, so I'm gonna stick to the sci-fi, right, and I'm gonna write Transformers fan fiction, because why not?
Robots in disguise,
right? Robots in disguise. And actually, that's a mispronunciation. What I meant to say was robots in the skies. This is all about Transformers in the skies. Actually, what this is a alternate Earth, where Earth is actually a gas giant.
Oh, wow.
And humans never developed, and we have a different sun, and all the planets are different. And it actually takes place in the Andromeda Galaxy. So this is just an alternate Earth. And in this one, the Transformers have crash landed on Earth, which is a gas giant, and now are flying through the skies. They scan the local organisms, which are more like squid sort of things, and so that's what they transform into. But they do transform into cars still. So they have two forms, and that's squids and cars, which are not super adaptable, which we found out when one of the Decepticons, one of the joke ones we see at the very beginning, sort of like just to set the mood, was at the lower part of this gas giant atmosphere, so very high pressure, right, in the squid form, right, and then turned into a car, and because the density was so different, sort of rocketed upwards out into the upper atmospheres, and it got the bends, and it just oh man, oof. It was rough to look at. Oil. It was rough to look at. Yeah, motor oil. Their optics burst. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to think of quotes from the Transformers movie. I'm really bad at it. It's one of my favorite movies. I covered it on Media MD. If you want to, on Media MD, if you go back in the backlog, there's an episode about the Transformers, the movie from 1986. I was on that episode. It was a fun conversation.
What was the name for their power core? There was a their Allspark.
The Allspark, which is, well, that's a little more complicated. The Matrix leadership. Anyway, I should probably just finish off the story. So after, actually that was Starscream. Starscream is the one that died. Which is the most tragic thing because he's the most interesting Transformer. And now Megatron lacks an advisor, and so he's gone totally just wacko. Like, he's not doing good. He's gone full squid, I think, and he's trying to get everyone with all his tentacles. And that's the plot. That's the premise for the story.
Oh, okay, pretty good. I really like
it. Only took 10 minutes to describe.
All right, cool. So my story next week is going to focus on this old knight statue that at the turn of the century in the year 4527, one day woke up, and this old statue harbored all of the old souls of those long dead on planet Earth. So now there is this hollow knight walking to and fro with no aim whatsoever. But all of this changed when quote unquote humans, even though by now they have advanced and evolved well past recognition, landed on this planet. Of course, this old knight with his old souls, his morals have bent to now see any sort of outside influence as vile and evil. So this one very quiet, very slow Hollow Knight transforms into this demolishing, killing machine, and is quickly the number one threat when it comes to trying to repopulate Earth. So basically, it was a 5-year war between this one Hollow Knight and legions upon legions of these future humans, each one scanning the horizon and trying their best to figure out a good tactic on how to take care of this vile evil. Well, after they have lost so many soldiers, the advisor to the Galactic King said, well, maybe we could wait on Earth. For now, we should nuke it. Wait a couple 100 years and see if we can settle it then when the Hollow Knight is gone. So, the very final glimpse of this artificial soul, Hollow Knight, is the glimpse of a city-sized nuke crashing down upon him.
That's beautiful. That's a brilliant story, Jarvis, and I can't wait to read it. And yeah, it's brilliant. Also, did you play Hollow Knight?
No, never played it. Never once.
You should play it. Hollow Knight is the Dark Souls of Hollow Knight.
Oh.
So it's good. And I think if you went and played it, which it was also covered on a Doof Media Game Club, that would be the right thing to do.
Do the right thing to do?
If you did it. Yep.
Oh, nice. Yep.